I'm not against police, but I'm not pro police. I want good policing. A lot of times people get, we started, when it comes to self-defense, especially with police officers over the last years, we started adding some extra stuff to that. Like, well, why didn't you shoot him in the legs? Well, he's crazy. He's got a knife. I mean, I know, but it's just a knife, right? Like, nobody dies from a knife. Or if me, you, and two other people are standing on the sidewalk and there's a crazy guy with a knife, and like, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to try to take it in the shoulder while he's stabbing me. Y'all take his legs down because we don't want to hurt this guy.
Right.
And people have started to assign all these extra things that a law enforcement officer should do prior to using deadly force when it's gun time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the law says when it's gun time, it's gun time.
There's just like there's turds in every profession. But, you know, it does go back to, it is pretty wild to watch some of these videos where cops just don't understand the law. And, you know, a lot of it comes down to, again, you have these audit videos where they go into public spaces and they're filming and the cops are like, you got to put that down. And it is wild to see some of these folks, especially in today's day and age, that how uneducated some of the law enforcement are out there. And why do you think that happened? Is that just going back to, this is the way that we've always done it?
Do you ever get any money from Costello?
No.
So you're also known as Duck Torella?
None of those.
This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast.
Wild and Wired Media. Regina, I know who you are.
You caught me.
Definitely.
We want to introduce our guest. We got Joe Lnu. Joe, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. I actually was not aware of your work. I have had a chance to go check out some of your stuff. Jen introduced me to you, and I'm glad she did. You do some extremely interesting things. I love the format.
We do a show called The Grand Jury. We take 5 volunteers from social media, wherever I can find them, 5 new ones every week. We seat them in a virtual studio, very much like where you are here. And I show them 5 brand new cases of police use of force. Now, these are official releases from the agencies. I don't take something off the internet where somebody else gives their opinion, right? I want to include, say, 911 information, all the information officers would have had when they arrived at the scene. I give them the 2 lenses that a grand jury should look at them in. And one is the level of convincing, which is probable cause, not very high, more likely than not. And I explain what the reasonable person standard is, this hypothetical construct that we're asked to view these things are in. And then we show them the video. It's kind of like a game show. We put them on a 10-minute clock. We get to watch them deliberate right live in front of us all. It's a very interesting show. What is a grand jury? Most people don't know. Most people don't know that it's something that we enjoy in America. It's guaranteed by our Constitution and most state constitutions. For any felony offense, that the state has to go through this gate by the first review of citizens, of the peers, will review to see if the state has enough evidence to even go forward with the prosecution. So we really enjoy the work we do on Friday night, and we think it's got some future. Anybody out there, you hear me say it 10 times a night until Gary kicks me off, I'm always looking for volunteers. You can't do it this Friday. I got a Friday that you can do it. So if anyone's interested, just give me a smoke signal. Just get my attention. But thanks for having me here tonight, Gary.
This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I love law enforcement, and I train law enforcement. Used to work as a instructor training law enforcement for a federal agency. Most of my friends are law enforcement, or a lot of them are law enforcement. But man, you know, when I start going down the YouTube rabbit hole and I'm watching like John, the civil rights attorney, and you start seeing some of these abuses that do take place. And I think it's a very small percentage, but I have a real issue when we have law enforcement start violating people's civil rights. You know, talk a little bit about that, because here's the thing, like, I think that's like 1%. And unfortunately, those are the law enforcement officers that do make the news. Culturally speaking, there is some elements there where it's like you're trying to trick people into violating their own rights. And I understand, like, This is such a nuanced discussion, right? It's real easy to start sounding like you're bashing law enforcement, and I'm not. I love them. Love what they do. They go out there and defend our country and our people every single day. I think they're unsung heroes, and they are the whipping posts, but of media most of the time, and any other issue. Talk a little bit about that, of trying to figure out how to balance that. And most of the time, I don't think most law enforcement officers have a problem with that, but there are definitely some guys and girls out there, but definitely a lot of guys out there that take that authority that we the people give them, and they abuse it because they have an ego or whatever they have, little man syndrome, whatever it is. You know, talk a little bit about that in your perspective.
Wow, that is that's an onion with a lot of layers. To be clear,
Yeah,
I'm not against police, but I'm not pro police. I want good policing. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a constitutionalist. As a young man, like many of us did, I raised my hand and swore to defend this document against enemies, foreign and domestic. And I was
thank you for your service, by the way.
Well, I loved it. Had a good time and got great stories from it. But who are the domestic enemies? Well, we are the domestic enemies. The Constitution is being pushed on all the time. We're never on autopilot in this country. It was never intended to be. If you read the Constitution and maybe some things that the founders said in the beginning, they never wanted. They wanted politics to be muddy. They wanted to be messy, and by God, they hit it. We're there. And we always have, but now is not a different time than any other time in U.S. history. Go back and read it around every presidential election in particular. But back to law enforcement. I think many officers, depending on what they do, they see the Constitution. We see the Constitution in action, right? When you arrest somebody, that's constitutional. Whether you have the authority to do so or not, you've got your probable cause. There's not one statement of probable cause. Probable cause is almost an elusive animal. You can't really see it sometimes straight on, but you can see it like night vision. You can see it in your periphery.
Yeah.
But you really got to understand what that is. And there's a lot of officers that don't. There's a trend in law enforcement, and it's not a new trend. It's been there forever, kind of like in the military. Well, this is how we've always done it. Why? Well, we don't know. Because when an officer has detained you, he has the authority to ID you. And if you fail to do so, that is a whole nother offense. Didn't go to jail for sitting in front of a closed business. He didn't go to jail for eating Taco Bell. He went to jail for failing to provide his identification when he's required to do so by law. So a lot of these they'll twist up. I will say that the grand jury, I've built, and I say I built a scraper. I don't really miss a video. I get a ton of them each week, and I only select 5. I'm looking for the 5 that are most questionable because we want to stimulate discussion on our show. Out of the 3 years I've been doing this, I think we probably get 7 or 8 a year that really have some issues with it. A lot of times people we started, when it comes to self-defense, especially with police officers over the last years, we started adding some extra stuff to that. Like, well, why didn't you shoot him in the legs? Well, he's crazy. He's got a knife. I mean, I know, but it's just a knife, right? Like nobody dies from a knife. Or if me, you, and 2 other people are standing on the sidewalk and there's a crazy guy with a knife, they're like, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to try to take it in the shoulder. While he's stabbing me, y'all take his legs down because we don't want to hurt this guy. Well, when you have a deadly weapon, that's where we're at. We're at hurting someone at this point.
Right.
And people have started to assign all these extra things that a law enforcement officer should do prior to using deadly force when it's gun time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the law says when it's gun time, it's gun time.
There's just like there's turds in every profession. But it does go back to, it is pretty wild to watch some of these videos where cops just don't understand the law. And a lot of it comes down to, again, you have these audit videos where they go into public spaces and they're filming and the cops are like, you got to put that down. And it is wild to see some of these folks, especially in today's day and age, that how uneducated some of the law enforcement are out there. And why do you think that happened? Is that just going back to, this is the way that we've always done it? Like,
no, I think you have, I think we see this in any type of training. You have some people that go in and they get it, and some people don't. They can pass the test, but they really don't get it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to law enforcement, we can't say law enforcement is one way anywhere or everywhere.
Sure.
We can say law enforcement is one way in one place, but it's wholly driven on the jurisdiction. I worked at a sheriff's office. Now I was in a multi-jurisdictional task force, so I had an association with other jurisdictions. In fact, I had authority because of this task force in other jurisdictions for, say, narcotics cases or felony cases. But outside of that, I had no association with them. We don't share the same policies. We don't have the same political entity that's above us. I have a sheriff that's elected. If you're in a police department, you've got an appointed chief, and then you've got the city council and the mayor. So I had an association with other jurisdictions. In fact, I had authority because of this task force in other jurisdictions for, say, narcotics cases or felony cases. But outside of that, I had no association with them. We don't share the same policies. We don't have the same political entity that's above us. I have a sheriff that's elected. If you're in a police department, you've got an appointed chief, and then you've got the city council and the mayor.
Again, what's the biggest challenge with that? And do you think that becomes a mindset? And folks, again, I just want to hedge this so much because I love law enforcement. I'm just saying, for the very small percentage out there that are doing this, it is a big problem. But go ahead, Jim.
Let me say this. I think any law enforcement officer that gets upset over scrutiny is in the wrong business. Your job is scrutiny. Everything. Yeah. There's things that I've done more than 10 years ago that I could get a call about. It could be somebody that I ran. It could be some privilege that I was given as a police officer that was going to be memorialized forever. So if you have problems being scrutinized, you're in the wrong business. Everything you do is going to be scrutinized. And it should be. Absolutely. Every arrest should be. Every action that you violated, that you take someone's liberties away, should be. It should be correct. I think the challenges have been all there all along. I think there may be something slightly unique now is that we're trying to be a softer police force. And we as citizens need to understand that they're law enforcement officers. Get this protect and serve out of your head, and you're supposed to de-escalate and all this. So they're law enforcement officers. I'm going to ask you once, and then I'm going to start to force after that as long as I've got probable cause. And my probable cause, once again, should be scrutinized all the way through the process. Many cases go through where the probable cause is it's just not that great. Case goes away. We don't take it to court. This is the proper way. This is what our founders wanted. Yeah, but I think we're facing something now where officers are trying to be too soft when it's a time not to be too soft. We see this in the grand jury. If you don't like the way they are in where you live, and this is, I'm being for real. I find the political entity that's in charge of them. If it's a police department, it's going to be the city council and mayor, and give them some grief. Get rid of your DA. Your DA has a lot to do how your law enforcement reacts and acts in certain jurisdictions. If you don't like the sheriff's department, we all know what to do with that. Get rid of the high sheriff. But I don't know that to your original question, I don't know that law enforcement is really moving into a new era. Now, technology-wise, there are, and there may be some challenges there with the Fourth Amendment, in particular with Flock, but I don't think as many as what people think they are, as if Flock's really not a new system. But I think it really matters on the jurisdiction, I guess, is my answer. And I don't see that we're really facing any brand new problems, just the same old problems that we're going to have to manage just like we always have.
Well, let's go to the flip side of that. And again, we got a lot of law enforcement out there because of George Floyd, because of the defund movements and things like that. They've been under attack. And I'll be honest with you, I know what most cops make. And given the environment, the political environment's obviously gotten a lot better now that we have Trump in office. And obviously there's that cyclical attitudes towards law enforcement that come and go. But, you know, these guys are under a lot of pressure to do a perfect job every single time. And as I'm sure you can attest to, most cops don't make that much money. And sometimes, like, you know, I've literally had people come to me, you know, younger kids, you know, guys that are getting, you know, 20-year-olds, like, yeah, you know, Gary, do you recommend going to law enforcement? I'm like, I don't know, man. You got to look at the environment and see if that's you better be doing that job because you love it and understand what you're getting into. But because of the political environment, that has to be extra challenging. And of course, again, the defund movement. Talk a little bit about, from a law enforcement perspective, the challenges that you guys face and kind of, I don't know, just some of that insider information that maybe most people don't realize.
Yeah. Once again, it comes down to jurisdiction. The most important person that affects how you perform your duties or what retribution you may face is your district attorney. And that Hennepin County in Minnesota, that's what we've seen. It's not just the George Floyd case. There's been 2 other cases where one trooper was no billed by the grand jury, and in Minnesota, she found a way to still try to get that into court. Now she backed off of it. But once again, this goes back to what I said. Liberal DAs are applying extra steps when officers use force. It's as if the officers are the adults, and the bad person or the person that's presenting force and resisting arrest, we're supposed to look after them as if they're children, as if they're not responsible adults that have the same constitutional rights as the rest of us, but they also have the same obligation to obey the law as the rest of us. And I think that that's dangerous. If I've got a nephew that just finished FTO. Matter of fact, he went all the way through the process. And this, I would have never thought this kid would be just one day. What do you think about me being a cop? I'm like, I think it's a good deal. So, but in the jurisdictions down here, it's not a problem. It's the same as it was before. He has the same perils that were there before, but he doesn't face any further fear of prosecution that you would in some blue cities. But in blue cities, prosecutors are adding extra steps that aren't there. They're not a requirement. And I think they also pinch on the requirement of viewing these without the benefit of hindsight. And that's very important when it comes to self-defense. If you take that away from us, then 9 out of 10 times we could be wrong.
Do you ever get any money from Costello?
Follow, subscribe, and
An
comment.
incarcerated individual's use of institutional telephones constitutes consent, and your calls may be provided to law enforcement agencies. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.